I want to retire 1 million immigrants with $5 million. I'm going to give away a course that I used to charge $300 per person as a live session. How do you save $5 million in 30 years? And the answer is you cannot. The first problem is that we are spending too much money. The second one is we are not making enough money. This rule and the way it's structured is complete bullshit, and it's not for people living in Ontario and BC. Now let me talk about how you should actually budget, and we need to flip the script a little. How much money do you want to make in 30 years, 20 years, 10 years? Is 5 million enough? I want to retire 1 million immigrants with $5 million. Simple mission, simple execution, no bullshit. So let's get started. Before I begin my presentation, I would highly encourage you to look at the entire video till the end, because there's a massive giveaway that I'm doing, and it's not about giving you this calculator or giving you this fancy mouse or $1,000. It's gonna be worth hundreds and thousands of dollars, because I'm going to give away a course that I used to charge $300 per person as a live session. And in a few minutes, you would understand why I'm giving that away for free. So the big question is, why $5 million? How big or small is this number $5 million? So let's do a few numbers. Let's take a few assumptions. Let's say I want to retire in Canada. These are almost my assumptions. So I want to retire in Canada. I want to retire in 30 years. So I'm 35 right now. I want to retire by the time I'm 65. I want to live for 100 years. So, I'm taking an assumption. If you don't live for 100 years, if you don't live for 2 years, no one can predict that. But let's assume that you want to live for 100 years and you want to retire debt free. So by the time I'm 65, I'll have another 35 years to live, and I need enough corpus or enough money that would outlive me. And I want to be debt free so that I'm not doing any debt payments, at least on my primary home or anything that I'm not making money off. Now let's say today is the future. What I mean by that is, let's assume today's prices, and let's assume that we were 65 today. And let's do a back calculation on how much money would you need when you are 65, or let's assume when you are 65 or I'm 65 right now, how much money would I need to survive in today's values again, right? So rent and mortgage will be $0 because I'll own a home, because I do own this home, and I'll probably be rent free. I'm hoping that I'm rent free by the time, I'm 65 in 30 years, and I am not paying anything in mortgage or in rent. So it's $0 for me. Utilities, let's say another $300, property taxes, $350. This is all in today's money. So I'm not, accounting for inflation right now. I'm assuming that I'm retiring today, as of today. Yeah. So property tax will be $350. These are actual expenses that I have at my home. Home maintenance is another $250 per month. Car payment is $0 because, like I said, that I want to retire debt free, and therefore my car payment will be $0. Car insurance is $180. Gas plus maintenance is another $350. Grocery is $600. Childcare is $0. Now, irrespective of whether you have children or not, by the time you retire, children would be independent, and therefore, even if you do not have children or you have children, this expense would ideally be $0. Phone bill is $115. Eating out is $500. Let's say you eat out every week. $500 in today's value. Obviously, it will be a lot higher if you account for inflation, but we are doing today's value right now. And shopping and fun is, let's say, another $600. These are the least amount of expenses that I would need. And if you want to retire comfortably in Canada, I don't think anyone could argue that, I'm taking some massive expenses. These are very, very middle class, maybe upper middle class expenses that I'm taking. Then I want to travel 2 times a year because I want to retire and travel, right? So I take another $1,000 a month, which is $12,000 a year. So I want to go to Europe. I want to, take a couple of trips, at least 2 or 3 trips in a year. So let's say that's $1,000 a month. Again, these are all monthly expenses. And other miscellaneous and medical expenses, let's say, are $500. So total expenses come to about $4,745 a month. This is in today's value, but I'm assuming that I'm retired today. If I inflation adjust this to 30 years, because I'm not retiring today, I'm going to retire in 30 years. If I inflation adjust this number, I'll need $11,182 a month after tax to retire. I've taken a 3% inflation rate, even though the inflation is around 2% in most years. But what we have learned in the last couple of years is that at least once in a decade or two, we have events like what happened in the last couple of years where inflation adjusts and it's much higher. So I've taken a 3% inflation to adjust these numbers. So I would need over $11,000 a month to live a decent life. Now these are after tax dollars. So before tax, I want to make about $200,000 a year, $203,307 a year to be exact. I'm taking a 33% tax rate. It could be lower, it could be higher. A lot of this money can be in TFSs, which are tax free. So I'm just clubbing everything into a third of the tax. So you need to make before tax $200,000 plus in order to live this decent life that you have. And because I do not have a job at this point, I need a corpus of money, some assets that I can draw this $200,000 off, because hopefully by 65 you would not want to work actively. There's something called as a rule of 4%, which means that whatever corpus you have, if you take 4% of that every single year and that corpus grows at over 4% every single year, you would most likely not exhaust that corpus of money and still be able to survive adjusted to inflation every single year for, in this case, for the next 35 years from 65 to the age of 100 that I live. So using that 4% rule, I come to my corpus of money, which is the liquid assets that I need, at $5 million. So if you multiply this by 4%, so if you take out 4% of this and this money grows at more than 4%, you would never exhaust this $5 million and still be able to get that $200,000 per year before tax, and then be able to draw $11,000 per month, and then you can adjust this number for inflation every single year. Now, obviously this sounds very easy and it's not as straightforward always. There could be some years like, we have this year or the last year when the market can actually go down and this calculation can go for a toss. But we are not discussing this calculation right now. What I'm saying is that, is this $5 million enough or not? I'm just trying to explain the magnitude of this number, and I feel that $5 million is probably the least amount of money that anyone would need, and you are seeing the expenses, and I'm not even accounting for years where the money actually reduces in value. $5 million can actually go down in value because 1 or 2 years the market may not do well. Now let me also explain another variable in this. Let's say you have $1,000 more of expenses. So instead of $4,745, you have $5,700 of expenses. Now, in order to live that lifestyle, you would have to make an entire $1 million to fund your retirement for 35 years. And that's the reason why I feel that $5 million is the least amount of money that anyone should think of retiring if you're retiring in Canada. It's a whole different story if you're retiring in India, and that's something that we'll discuss on a later date. Now, the next question is, how do you save $5 million in 30 years? And the answer is, you cannot. Because if you do the math on $5 million, we need to save $166,000 a year. That's $14,000 a month. And most people will not be able to do that today. But let's do another mathematics. Let's say you start saving $2,000 a month in year 1, which is today, which is pretty realistic. And then you increase that savings rate by 10% every single year. So what I mean by that is, year 1, you save $2,000 a month, that's $24,000. And then year 2, you save $2,200, which is 10% higher than what you were saving in year 1, and so on and so forth. And by year 30, you would be saving $30,000 a month because your income is increasing. Now, that's a very, very optimistic scenario. And saving $30,000 a month in year 30 on your retirement year may be possible for a lot of people. But I think a lot of you would agree that it may not be possible if you are still in your 9-to-5 job. And even if we look at this optimistic scenario, and we'll still end up 1 million short of the $5 million target that we have now. Now, this of course is just saving money without getting any interest on that money. It's almost like saving money under your mattress. Now, let's say we take a more realistic scenario where we increase the saving rates by 5% every year, which is a little bit more realistic and it's more in line with inflation. We'll end up with $1.6 million only. So you cannot save your way to your retirement. So we have problems. The first problem is that we are spending too much money. The second one is we are not making enough money. The third one is that we are in denial. A lot of people do not talk about retirement because it's too stressful, because they know that they are not saving enough, because they know that they are not investing enough, and they know that there will be problems in retirement. And that's a problem of Navjot in 30 years. And there's a flip side as well. Let's say you start making a lot of money, but you do not know where to stop. And that's another reason why you need to have your number in mind. How much money do you want to make in 30 years, 20 years, 10 years? Is 5 million enough? Do you want to make 10 million? Do you want to retire in India, therefore 2.5 million is enough? All those calculations need to happen. All that plan needs to be made, because if you do not know where to stop yourself, then you would keep taking risks and you might lose it all. Which is the reason why I created a $5 million journey. The first step to that journey is foundational. You need to build a budget and you need to track your expenses every single month, and we'll talk about that in today's presentation. The second one is you build and invest. You take part of the money that's coming in and you invest that automatically into long-term ETFs and dividend-paying stocks. You can either do that through your TFSA account or RSP account or your non-registered account, or if you own a business, you can do it through your business as well. But part of your budget has to go towards your long-term investing goals and your retirement. And the second one, and that's my favorite one, is $5 million in 30 years. Is that enough or not? Do you want to make more than $5 million? Some people are okay making way less because they are retiring in a developing country like India. And some people want to live like the 1% and want to leave a legacy, enough money for generations to come. And finally, and this has the maximum number of things that we need to take care of, is protection. We need to protect our wealth. We need to protect ourselves from ourselves, and therefore debt management becomes a really important part. I've seen so many people fail because they go too much into debt, and that's one thing that we need to avoid. Another thing that we need to protect ourselves is insurance. Now, if you are someone who thinks that what's the point of working so hard, because what if I die tomorrow and have a family, you need insurance. On the flip side, if you own a house or a couple of houses and you have a family or planning to have a family, you need to take at least a term insurance that covers your family if you are gone. Do not fall into the trap of whole life insurance that is there all around us. Most people do not require that. Term insurance is more than enough, and I've talked about this several times on Instagram. And finally, once you have built enough wealth, estate planning is critical. You need to have will in place, because when you are gone, you need to make sure that your family is fairly treated. And all the properties that you own are distributed amongst your family fairly and as per your wishes. Estate planning is not only for the rich, and that's the myth that I wanted to solve with this journey. Now, in today's video, I'll only be talking about building a budget, but there's one bullshit move that I'll be talking about: the transition between foundation and building and investing. And the reason why I call it bullshit is because there's one gap. Because if you're not making enough money, you would not be able to make this important transition, and you would not be on your way to make $5 million or retire with $5 million. And that's the reason why I'm giving that course for free, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Now, first, let's talk about budgeting. And what we normally hear in the market is a rule called 50-30-20, which means that 50% of whatever we are getting after taxes should go towards our needs. Our needs are basically our housing, our shelter, our car, if you need a car for living, your grocery bills, your childcare expenses. All those are needs. You can't live without them. 30% of all the money that comes in goes towards our wants. Wants are all those things that you do not need for survival, but it'll be nice to have them. And then the remaining 20% goes towards saving or investing, depending on whether you're saving for a house, an emergency fund, or you're investing every month into ETFs or the stock market. Now, let me tell you something that you probably already know. This rule and the way it's structured is complete bullshit, and it's not for people living in Ontario and BC, because the expenses are way too high and people are not making enough money. And I can prove that to you with numbers. So let's say your household income after taxes is about $5,000. You're just new to Canada, you just came in, and your rent is $1,500 for a one-bedroom basement. You are maybe a couple or a single person, it doesn't matter, but these are the expenses that you have when you first come in. I'm taking a lower rent. The rent can be a lot higher than this in today's market, but let's say you got a really good deal and you spend $1,500 on rent living in a basement. It's not a fancy condo, it's not a fancy house, it's a basement. Utilities and phone bill is $200. Let's say you're a couple, you each have $100 of phone bill, including the phone or whatever, right? So that's $200. You have utilities as well, so I've taken a few of those as well. Grocery bill is about $500. Public transport is $150. Childcare, home, some people send money to their parents' home, or some people have children, so let's say that as $1,000. And your needs, you can't live without these things, because your needs budget is now 67%. It's already more than 50%. You're spending almost 67, 2/3 of your income towards your needs. Then you have to spend money on wants. You have to shop, you have to eat out, you have to travel, and all that money accounts for about $2,000. And now suddenly you're not left with anything. And some people actually go into debt by doing this. Once you've spent a couple of years in this country, what you want to do is your household income has obviously increased. Let's say it's doubled in a couple of years. You got a fancier job. One of you moved on a contract job, whatever, right? Rent is $2,800 because now you want to move into a fancy condo. You want, a 2-bedroom condo, or, your parents are coming here. So you want a bigger house. So rent is $2,800. I'm not even accounting for mortgage right now. It's only rent that I'm talking about. Mortgage will be a lot higher than this. Utilities, phone bill has increased to $300 because you want that fancy iPhone, and, why not? You deserve it. So $300. Grocery bill is $700. It's increased a little bit. You're trying to hold back on buying the expensive grocery, healthier grocery. Let's say it's $700 now. Car payments, because now you need a car as well, because you need to travel to work or whatever. Let's say $1,000. These were the expenses that I had on my car when I had Hyundai Elantra at 0% interest. So that's the minimum possible car expenses that you have if you don't buy the car in cash. And then the childcare and home expenses, the home, money that you send home if you do, that's, let's say, another $1,500. And now your needs budget has not reduced. It's still 63% and it's increased by an entire $3,000. And then shopping, eating out, travel, it's increased a little bit because we are making more money. And again, we are not left with enough money. We are only left with $450 every month, and that's not enough to save for retirement. Now let me talk about how you should actually budget, and we need to flip the script a little. So on the left side, you see how people budget. And now let's talk about the right way of doing it. Let's say you make the same amount of money, $10,000, but instead of putting it into your needs or wants first, you put it into your savings and investing account at 20%, which is $2,000, and now you have disposable income of only $8,000 and not $10,000 to spend on needs and wants. Now, obviously, you have all the same needs that you had. I'm not reducing any of the needs. Needs remain as is, and you still spend $6,300 on needs, and whatever is left goes towards wants. You need to flip the script so that you ensure that you are saving or investing towards your goals, towards your retirement. And that's the only most optimized and efficient way of budgeting in today's time, especially if you are living in expensive markets like Toronto and Vancouver. Now, some people might say that that's not enough money, and that's true. What if you are not left with anything on the wants because you invested 20% and the rest of the money barely covered your needs? What if you do not have anything for your wants? And that's okay. That just means that we are not making enough money and we can't go on that fancy travel till the time we earn a little bit more than what we are earning right now. When we did this exercise and flipped the budget for ourselves, we realized that we are not making enough money and we can either go on those fancy trips or save for retirement. And the only way to break out of this cycle is to make more money. So what happens next? We need to track our expenses every single month. Even after owning 3 businesses and having personal expenses, we still track our expenses every single month. First Sunday of every month, me and Simran would sit down and track our expenses across businesses, across our personal credit card. The second thing that we need to change is that we need to decide on our wants budget for next month based on our spending habits in the previous month. What I mean by that is that if you have not spent enough money in the previous month, you can actually move that money or the additional savings after you're investing, after your needs and wants, into your next month wants budget. And that's completely fine. Make sure that you do not spend much on your wants budget in the previous month so that you can buy that fancy gadget in the next. Now, I would highly encourage you to go to my website and download the budgeting tool that I have. There is an amazing calculator. There's an amazing retirement tool there. Play around with these calculators and you would find it very interesting, and tell me in the comments how you like that. The link to those is in the description. And the last one, and I actually mentioned that in my previous slide as well, we need to improve our income. If your income doesn't allow any budget for wants, or it doesn't even cover your needs, after you put your investing money aside, we need to make more money. And that's where my bullshit comes in. I always tell people to make more money. I always tell people to, invest $250,000, $200,000 in this recession, but I never talk about how to make more money. And that's what I changed today. I'm releasing my 6-figure job accelerator. I used to call it First Job Accelerator. I used to do this for $300 live with 10 people at a time, and a lot of people gained a lot of knowledge from that and got jobs worth $27 million across the people that I've coached. People got into companies like Google, Amazon, TSX. Some people got government jobs. They were placed in Deloitte, all these big companies. This is a really powerful course and I'm giving it away for free. This is available on my website, grownation.ca. You just need to go, put your email address, download that, go through the entire 4 to 5 hours of content. And I can promise you this, if you implement whatever is said in that, you'll be way ahead in your journey of finding a really good job or upgrading your job into making multiple 6 figures. In this course, I'll talk about knowing your worth, your unfair advantage that would make you stand out of the crowd. Then I talk about making a stellar profile, and a profile has 4 portions to it. I talk about all those 4 portions, including your resume. I then talk about LinkedIn and the power of LinkedIn, how to break through the hidden job market. 80% of the jobs are hidden in Canada. And that's just the sad reality. How to break through those 80% of the jobs. I talk about that. Then I talk about nailing your interview and how to answer the usual questions differently and making it memorable in your interview room and making yourself stand out from other people who are also interviewing for the same role. And finally, we talk about negotiating your salary because I want you to make much more than what you are offered. I really strongly want you to make what you are actually worth. All this and more in this particular course, which is absolutely for free. So go to grownation.ca, download the course, and maybe click a screenshot of the slide that you like the most and tag me on Instagram. I would really love that. And once you have done that, or you're already making $100,000 plus, I would highly recommend that you also check out my course on the $5 million journey, where we talk about all these 6 different aspects, how to build a budget. We already talked about that. Skip that entire section if you buy this course. And then we talk about which ETFs to invest. I am not the only one who taught this course on October 21st and 22nd. This course was taught by my mentor, who is an investor for 20 years and my financial planner who looks after millions of dollars of portfolios every single day. All this is discussed in great detail in this particular course. It's almost 6 to 7 hours of pure gold, and I promise you that you will walk away with at least 10 times more value of what you pay for this particular course. The first 50 who buy this course will get access to the largest networking event for immigrants. And this is the agenda here. We have a fireside chat with Adrian Barr, who is Canadian in a t-shirt. I'm sure you watched the interview with him. I'm sure that you already follow him. If you don't, you should. There'll be a panel discussion with wealth builders like my financial planner, my mentor who has been an investor for 20 years, myself, and a couple of other people who know how to buy businesses and sell them. We have dinner, we have drinks, we have a lot of networking. Just imagine 400 people, all my network, all my clients, all my business partners will all be there. There'll be some amazing investors who will also be part of this event, and there's a lot to learn from it. This is an invite only event, and I'll be inviting the first 50 people who, after watching this video, buy the $5 million retirement journey course. I hope you like this video. That's all I have for today. मिलते हैं अगली वीडियो में, तब तक के लिए bye bye.